Hello, welcome to ZZZ, Fun Facts, Tiny Details, and References. Just a little foreword for this video. Number 1, this video is my first time making something like this, so please give me some slack. Number 2, this video was created during 3.1, so all information in this video is subject to change. Number 3, the information comes from the game, myself, and the wiki. Number 4, if any information in this video is false, please put it in the comments. Number 5, this list is not exhaustive, so this doesn't contain everything, so you have a cool fact, share it in the comments. Number 6, I probably won't be making another video on this, and I want to stick to just standard gaming videos, so I'd be very happy if you checked those out and stuck around even though it's not related to ZZZ. Without further ado, thanks for watching, and let's go. So the name Zenless Zone Zero actually comes from a technical term from the game itself. When a hollow starts getting a spike in ether energy, it of course will start expanding. When expanding, there is a limit called the Zenless limit, in which when a hollow reaches this, you will either spawn companion hollows, or become upgraded from a companion hollow to a standard hollow. Now you probably know the main key plot point in the game is the expansion of Hollow Zero, and destroying a good chunk of Eridu. Eridu itself comes from an ancient Sumerian city, so the title of the game is describing the instance in which Hollow Zero hits the Zenless limit. This makes sense because this is the event where most plot points are born from. There are also the 6 Great Hollows, which are not as large as Hollow Zero, but they are impossible to eliminate. These being Cretan, Lemnian, Protagonist, Hawara, Solov, and Papago, all of which are based off or are related to labyrinths and mazes. Due to the structures of hollows, this is an apt way of naming. Cretan Hollow is named after the Greek island Crete, where the classic labyrinth and minotaur myth takes place. Lemnian and Protagonist Hollow both refer to the Greek island of Lemnos and an Etruscan king of the same name, and both described by Pliny the Elder as being associated with labyrinths. Hawara Hollow refers to an archaeological site with it having a pyramid and several temples with it being called the Labyrinth by Herodotus. Solov Hollow refers to the Solovotsky Islands in Russia, with Bolshoi Zayatsky Island being home to multiple ancient stone labyrinths. Finally, Papago Hollow refers to the Uraham people of Arizona and their creator, Itoy, often depicted as a man in the maze, with the Spanish calling the peoples Papago. So, let's talk about us, the main protagonist, or our online name, Phaethon. Phaethon comes from Greece, being the son of the sun god Helios. Now there is a myth tied to Phaethon where he begs Helios to ride his sun chariot, and Helios relented. But during the ride, Phaethon lost control of the sun chariot and died in the process. The game itself even hints at this with the interaction between the proxy and Pyroas. And on Pyroas, the sun chariot had 4 horses, their names being Pyroas, Eos, Aethon, and Phlegon. We already have Pyroas and Eos, now we have to be on the lookout for Aethon and Phlegon. Now I know you're probably a little done with name origins, but hold on, we're almost there, because lastly, I want to talk about Ethereals and their names. This won't be an exhaustive list, and I recommend you look into it yourself. Let's first talk about the Dullahan, which is the first elite Ethereal you encounter in the game. This is what Silver turned into, if you remember him. But a Dullahan is a creature from Irish folklore that is missing its head, which I think is the perfect creature to represent the Ethereals. Next up is the Ahriman, which comes from Middle Persian, and is described as an evil spirit. Thanatos is named after the Greek god of death of the same name. Yishuyan the Thrall is one of the more recent notorious bosses, and along with the fact that before you complete 2.5, his name will show up as ? He has a little buddy that he rides along called Sobek, which is named after the Egyptian crocodile goddess of the same name, which would explain the very crocodilian features it has. Lastly, let's talk about the Ethereals that were introduced to us in 3.0, that being Kululu, Lamu, Mushusu, Gertablulu, and Bashmu. All of these Ethereals are based off the Mesopotamian monsters that are spawns of Tiamat. Okay, name talk over. Let's get into more lighter fun facts. One thing that I'm sure most of you don't know is something about Howl. You know, the dog at the newsstand on 6th Street? Well, did you know that he actually has green toenails? It is such a strange detail that you can only see in his idle animation, which I think a lot of people just get the scratch card and leave. Or where I saw it is late at night when he is sleeping. Something that I learned as of making this video, trying to find stuff, is about the other proxy's room in random play. I always thought that you couldn't enter it unless under special story or event conditions before it being closed forever. But if you go late at night, the other proxy will leave the room and keep the door open, and you are free to explore. There usually isn't that big of a difference on what sibling you choose, but there are some, like their rooms. Wise's room is very neat, but Belle is unkempt and messy. Another is Lucy's second rank up event, where you get into an argument with her. And, if you play as Belle, she says that Belle is a horrible driver, while with Wise, she criticizes his music taste. Though we haven't seen Officer Mew Mew in a while, and I am ever curious to learn their true identity, a cute detail is that Officer Mew Mew's face is asymmetrical. Something we learn through the new event with Norma is that the way Bang Boo are coded is horrible, even though they were made by Lady Sunbringer, saying that it's basically spaghetti code. This is probably one of the reasons on why we have to fix them so much. More on Bang Boo. If you go to 404 Livehouse, you can find a poster of a Bang Boo in the iconic Nirvana album cover. Also, at 404 in the mornings, after completing a small commission, you can get Cersei to sing for you on stage. A fun interaction that you can have in Cheesetopia is this groundhog statue, which, if you interact with it a bunch of times, it'll scream at you and say how annoying you are. Okay, so let's get to the one thing that's always confused me, and that is, what exactly is Nitro-Fuel? Because there's so much differing information on the drink. So let's go over the stuff we do know about Nitro-Fuel. Like with the TV ad that plays in the main menu or in Lumina Square, you know, with the hot buff Thyrans fighting over the gas can. And this is where my confusion started. Not at my sexuality at seeing the hot buff sweaty Thyrans, but at the gas can, because despite the name and appearance, Nitro-Fuel is a type of drink. This then leads to the question on what type of drink it is. Bernice is where we get a lot of information on Nitro-Fuel, being that she uses it as, well, fuel for her flamethrowers. So I guess maybe it's still gasoline? But wait, alcohol can be used as fuel, like in Molotov cocktails. And with her being a bartender,
give me a drink, bartender.
and in Leiter's agent story, he suggests a Nitro-Fuel drinking contest, then goes on to say that drinking it makes him dizzy, meaning that drinking contests are a regular thing, and there are adverse effects like nausea. Also, in the 2.8 story, a talk with Bernice reveals that after a night of partying and drinking Nitro-Fuel with Ramiel, she can't remember a single thing. It's also good to note that Sigrid can drink an entire barrel full of Nitro-Fuel. This can relate to a person being able to hold their liquor. You know, the archetype of the strong woman being able to hold her alcohol. So, I guess this means that it's alcohol. But not so fast, because Piper drinks some before she drives us somewhere in the Overlord's Feast event as a way to keep energized while she is driving. Hell, Bernice even says that it's an energy drink that all the drivers go crazy for, and Caesar says that instead of coffee, people of the Outer Ring prefer Nitro-Fuel. There are a bunch of other examples for both, and even some evidence that it's a soda, or even actually just fuel in general. So this can only lead me to one place. Nitro-Fuel isn't just any liquid, it's more of a flavor. So there's something that's been on my mind for a while. And do you guys know of the logbook? You know when you complete a chapter and there's that animation that plays of you completing the story beats? Well, in the 1.5 story, there's an interesting photo that appears. First, I want to say that because I first played ZZZ in Season 2, I don't know if this was originally here and was taken out, but this photo never shows up in the actual story and only appears here. Take a look at this. Yeah, if you're thinking what I'm thinking, then this picture is a picture of young Belle, seemingly from Wise's perspective. I mean, she has the same eye color and hair color, and if you take this into account, then the two adults in the background have to be the Proxy's parents. Like I said, I'm pretty sure this is the only time this picture appears. I myself haven't done any research on this, so I could be wrong. My only guess is that this is going to be talked about in future story stuff, or it might be a drop plot point. Okay, let's talk less about theory stuff and more of a general talk about the agents before we move on to a more focused look. So, let's talk about the number of agents and their genders. But before we begin, we need to understand how Soldier Zero Ambi, Starlight Billy, and Pyroas are going to work, because they can all be counted for in strange ways. I will only count Ambi and Billy as one person, even though they have different forms, because they are still the same person. Then, with Pyroas, it's a little strange because they are both two people and both genders. So, I will count them as one person and gender ambiguous. Now that that's over, there are currently 56 agents in the game, with 11 males and 45 females, and 1 Pyroas. Then there are 13 A ranks and 44 S ranks, and 1 Pyroas. Then let's look at the agent's heights, because there are some interesting ones. The shortest female agent is unsurprisingly Zhao, coming in at 118 centimeters, or 3 foot 10 inches. She is a whole 2 apples tall.
Wait, you're not showing off those long legs of yours, are you?
And the highest female is a tie between Caesar and Astra at 176 centimeters, or 5'9". You probably thought that the new agent Sigrid would be the tallest, but no, she is 175 centimeters. Though it is good to note that Seed's height while she pilots Seed Senior is 240 centimeters, or 7'8", but because it's a form change, I'm not counting it. And to all of you who say to put Seed Senior in the males, 1, he himself is not a playable agent, and 2, he's dead. So, onto the male agents. The shortest male agent is Haramasa at 173 centimeters, or 5'8", and the tallest is Bonyue at a whopping 200 centimeters, or 6'7". Next, I just want to look at some basic stuff like the most common eye color and hair color. For categorizing them, I just took the most prominent color. So the most common eye color is red/orange at 20 agents, with the most common hair color being a tie between blonde and black/brown with 12 agents. Now let's talk about moles. You probably noticed that ZZZ adds a lot of moles to their characters. So I've decided to count them all by using their base models and skins, including their mindscapes. But surprisingly, none of the mindscapes or skins show anything new, with even some of the skins getting rid of moles when they should be there. So the most moles someone has is actually a 5-way tie between Nicole, Ellen, Lucy, Seed, and Velina, with all of them having 3 moles. The faction with the most moles goes to the Sons of Caledon with 5 moles. Lucy, of course, having 3, with Pulchra having 2. Also, shout out to Hugo, who has 2 moles, and being the only male with moles. Some cool things to also note is the agents have real-world birthdays, and on social media, the official account will post original art to celebrate. And with Qingyi having the earliest birthday on January 1st, and Lighter having the latest birthday on December 27th. When you text agents, you can invite them to hang out, but you can press a button and switch their profile pic from their face to what their profile picture actually is. And I really like the personalities that they show through their unique profile pictures. Another thing about texting is that some of the agents have their own texting quirk, like some using emojis, some not capitalizing the words, and using shorthand, Seed with their overabundance of tildes, or Caesar and Sokaku not being able to spell. I didn't know where to put this, but some agents have unique usernames at the Godfinger arcade, so that's cool if you like that. Hey, does anyone still use Godfinger? I don't know, man. There's a strange categorization in the game when it comes to the agents, yet to my knowledge, it never comes into play. Those being Slash, Strike, and Pierce type. I don't know why these are in the game, with some of them not making a lot of sense in the first place. Some of them even have multiple types, like Seed or Haramasa, but let's go over categories that do matter, like the 6 specialties being Attack, Anomaly, Rupture, Stun, Support, and Defense, and with the elements being Physical, Fire, Ice, Electric, Ether, Wind, and the new element Lumiflux. You guys already knew that, so, like what has been the pattern so far, let's talk numbers. Currently in the game, there are 17 attack agents, 12 anomaly agents, 5 rupture agents, 11 stun agents, 8 support agents, and 5 defense agents. For elements, there are 13 physical agents, 12 fire agents, 9 ice agents, 12 electric agents, 9 ether agents, 1 wind agent, and 1 lumiflux agent. All of these counting the Void Hunter specific ones as well. And I hope no new element or specialty will get announced while making this. Immediately dating this video. Anyways, the most common combination of these two being electric attack at 5 agents. This means when an S-rank female agent with blonde hair, red eyes, and their an electric attack comes out, then that means they're the most common agent in the game. Oh. Yeah, hello? Wait. What? There's someone who already fits that description in game? Oh, okay. So, Cecilia. I was describing Cecilia. But, Cecilia is a Thyran, which is a minority of the available agents, being 20 of them. Well, there are over 30 humans, so she does not count. Now, let's get to the real meat and potatoes, the agents themselves, starting with Pyroas. Pyroas, being part of the Phaethon faction, is the only agent in the game who is neither an A rank nor an S rank, but being something that resembles an infinity sign. Pyrois is also the only agent that doesn't have a trust bar, and when trying to access it, it will show a unique message that isn't found anywhere else. Next up is the Cunning Hares, or what they originally called Gentle House, but due to Nicole's nature, it gained the nickname the Cunning Hares, which she likes better than the original. Speaking more of Nicole, an interesting bit of lore can be found in her agent intel, where it talks about how she was adopted from her orphanage by a prominent family, but she soon cut ties with them. We still don't know what this family is, and there have been multiple theories, but all have been based on conjecture. Her W engine, the Vault, is shown to be filled with gold coins, but sadly, they are fake. Anby Damara, in which she takes their last name from Nicole and calls themselves sisters, even though they aren't, was originally the captain of Silver Squad, a squad of genetic clones. This is where her Soldier Zero form comes from. There also seems to be some problems with the clones, because both Anby and Soldier 11, who is also part of Silver Squad, both have problems with their memory and both have an obsession over certain foods, with Anby being hamburgers and Soldier 11 spicy food, especially noodles. Another cool detail that I learned while making this video is that as Soldier Zero, when sprinting, she will deflect small arms and take no damage. She probably isn't the only one who can do this, but this is just the one that I realized. Billy Kid was named after the outlaw Billy the Kid from our world. And even though he got an upgrade in the story to his Starlight Knight form, he says in that same story to Lighter that he is still holding himself back in power because he doesn't like that side of him, which brings up the question if we'll ever see him go all out. Nekomata, or her real name, Nekomiyamana, is based off a Japanese creature of the same name, with them both having two tails and a mischievous nature. Also, Nekomata usually adds cat-like mannerisms in her speech and says all cat Thyrans speak this way, but no cat Thyran that we know of does do this, so Nekomata is probably faking it. Continuing on to Belobog Heavy Industries, which, in my opinion, is the most forgotten faction in the game. With Kaleda, it's an interesting thing to note that in her agent intel, Fairy suggests that the reason why she is short is because of a prolonged involvement in Hollows, but there is little research in this topic. Grace's W engine is said to be her way to communicate to her children. Anton is strange when it comes to his jackhammer, calling it bro, and seems to actually talk to it. Whether he is mentally sane is up in the air. Ben, being a bear Thyran and just like his real-world counterpart, enjoys fish, and along with Qingyi, helps you win the Anglers competition. Victoria Housekeeping's members are all based off of classic horror monsters, with Lycon being a werewolf, Rena being a ghost, Corin being Frankenstein, and Ellen being a creature from the Black Lagoon, or a shark like from Jaws. Like I said, Lycon is based off of a werewolf, and his name reflects this being based on the ancient Greek word for wolf, and the origin of lycanthropy, the act of turning into a werewolf, if you didn't know. Rena's dress cost 2.2 million dennies, and she is unable to drive in the dress because it's too long. She once tried a shorter skirt for driving, but all her clients complained that they were too distracted by her legs. Thanks to Reddit, we know all the sizes of all the women in the game, and despite being a 1.0 character, she has the biggest assets. In Corin's agent intel and Mindscape art, it is said that she underwent surgery, and we can see the scars on her body, which adds more to her Frankenstein reference. Ellen is one of the only people who likes to eat Rena's cooking. This is a reference to real-life sharks, who often eat random junk in the ocean. Ellen's W engine is also said to be used by Ellen to make frappes. Next is PubSec. And can I just say how weird it is that in Cecia's character demo, that at the reception desk, there is just one of the intelligent construct workers laying in the corner? Like, does she not have a house? Is this supposed to imply that she didn't pass the Forbidden Fruit test, and therefore not have rights in the city of New Eridu? This is an important question. Answer us, Hoyo. Anyways, in a quality time event with Miyabi, she mentions Zhu Yan and how bottom heavy she is, and she used to be bothered by this fact. Xingyi's name is actually 01 Neogenesis 6, or 01 NG V1, which was mistakenly written down as Qingyi. Seth has a brother named Severian, and we have seen him show up recently in the story, and is the police commissioner, and was the replacement for Bringer, and he's the boss of Cecilia. We learned from Jane's Mindscapes that she's a little bit of a hoarder, keeping lots of snacks and foodstuffs. Another cute detail is in her idle animation, where she looks like a rat standing on two legs. Cecilia's love of all things egg probably comes from in real life that some snakes like to swallow eggs whole. The Sons of Caledon are a faction of biker gangers that are remains of Caledon, and their name are based off of the city of Caledon of Greek myth, where a wild boar was destroying the region. This explains all the boar imagery that the Sons of Caledon have. Caesar has a prosthetic left arm, which he got from Billy, and it took her a long time to get used to it. Piper's age is unknown, but with the way she speaks, plus with some of the knowledge she has, she could be over 50 years old. Bernice drinks her own Nitro-Fuel from her flamethrowers after she uses them. Yeah, this makes a lot of sense. Lucy comes from a very affluent family, but cut ties with them and ran away to the Outer Ring. This is why she knows Alice, because they went to the same school together. It is implied that in Lighter's music video, he was a smoker, but quit before joining the Sons of Caledon. We know a lot more about cat thorns thanks to Pulchra, like taking catnip makes them uncontrollably purr. Seed, or her real name, Flora, has a mysterious origin, with all we know is that she came from Helios Academy, same as us, and has the power to control machines and electronics when she gets emotional. Orphe's name is based off the Greek person Orpheus, and Orphean Magus's design, while not confirmed, is likely based off of a chimera or a manticore. Magus's design also incorporates a small hat and tie. She is the captain after all. Trigger's old squad all have names that go together, with them being the names of the rivers that run through the underworld in Greek mythology. She is also the #1 stalker, tied with Vivian of course. Despite Soldier 11, or her real name being Hareen, presence in the 2.2 story, she only has about 1 to 2 spoken lines of dialogue.
Seed, you've met them before. You two have quite a unique way of talking. Birds of a feather flock together, as they say.
Sukaku is an Oni, which we know very little about and are only shown a glimpse in Yanagi's character teaser. Sukaku is also the only other agent who enjoys Rina's cooking, as it reminds her of her Oni cooking. Yanagi was a part of the defense force before joining Section 6. This is where she met Sukaku at an Oni hideout during the war between Eridu and the Oni, where they came to an agreement to have a blood transfusion between Yanagi and the Oni chief, making Yanagi part Oni. Haramasa and Seth are good friends, and they both went to the same academy, but chose different paths. But they still hang out from time to time. Miyabi's quirk of calling everything training comes from when she was a kid, and her mother called it training to everything she did to make it cooler for Kid Miyabi and to help her understand better. Great. Now I'm sad. Astra's singing ability is so good that she can control raw ether with her voice alone. And, at least I think, that her W engine is not even a real W engine, but it's just a bag. But this is just my headcanon and my interpretation of her W engine, so take it with a grain of salt.
Nice argument, Senator. Why don't you back it up with a source?
My source is that I made it the fuck up.
In her trust event, Evelyn orders an 8-shot of espresso in her coffee for work. This is really unhealthy, and is way over the daily limit of caffeine in a day. But at least we learn that she is ticklish in the same trust event. There has been some misinformation about Vivian online, and I've seen people say that Vivian is a banshee. Like, that's her race, or species. But this is not true. Nowhere is this stated. Her last name is Banshee, and to further strengthen this, she could foretell when someone was about to die. This only means that her character is based off of Banshee, not that she is one. Hugo has hypoglycemia, or low blood sugar, so he often has to consume sweet things, but due to some family trauma, he finds sweet foods disgusting and can't stomach eating them. Jufufu is a tiger thyron, and there are not a lot of tiger thyrons that exist because they were mostly wiped out during the Hollow Zero incident. We only see 3 living tiger thyrons, being Jufufu herself, the fake Kang Huang from Jufufu's agent story, and an unnamed child from Seed's character teaser. We know Pan Yinhu to be quiet and kind, but before he joined Yunquei Summit, this was not the case, as he was a Hollow Raider. But after getting beaten by Yishuan, he joined Yunquei Summit. Yishun's bird that she always has is called a Qingming bird. She developed it to help her sister with the effects of the Qingming sword. But after that plan failed, she just used it for fighting. Ye Shengguang is, to my knowledge, one of only 3 agents to have a tattoo, the others being Anton and Grace. Now on to Spook Shack, the one and only Scooby-Doo gang. With Yuzuha, she has an accessory as part of her design that looks to be like a cochlear implant, which may imply that she is deaf, but is never said that she is, so this is only speculation. Alice, being a bunny, is named after Alice in Wonderland, with a white rabbit she follows in order to get there. She also is obsessed with things being symmetrical, and this is a problem because she has heterochromia, so whenever she looks into a mirror, she hates herself. But it seems that she is getting better at learning to be okay with it. Monoto is one of the many JoJo references in the game, with his design being close to Jotaro, and he even hits his iconic pose in the 2.3 story. Bonus fact, I found this in Rose Califer. It's a reference to the 14 power words in Dio's diary. Yidari has a kind of face blindness that she explains in the story, with everyone's faces just being blurred, except the proxies, which we can see in her demo. Also, this little detail that I noticed while making this video is that with Yidari's tights, you can see little spiral patterns in them. She is also one of 4 agents who have been seen wearing glasses, the rest being Yanagi of course, Bernice, and Ben in his profile picture and birthday art. Grace and Trigger don't count. Grace has goggles, and Trigger has a visor. And of course, while making this video, they released a video of Arya wearing sunglasses, so add her to the list, I guess. Lucia has a cool detail that her eyes are exactly like a goat. Which makes sense because she is a goat Thyran. But another thing is her earring. It's just like that of actual animals when farmers put tags on them to keep track of them. Next is the Krampus Compliance Agency, which there is a fan theory that they are all designed after circus performances and acts. But I can't find any evidence of this, but it's still cool if it turns out to be true. So Dialin can listen to the voices of dead people in hollows, and can make other people listen in with a phone on her back. I guess that's why her name is Dialin. Get it? Like dialing? Like dialing a phone?
Man, shut your...
Okay, I'm gonna be honest, this took me much longer to get than you would think. Also, just some personal thing that I think would be cool is if the proxy with Fairy, Yidari, Dialin, and Cecilia were together. I think they could honestly get to the core of Hollow Zero. Bonyue, despite being an intelligent construct, is horrible with technology, as seen by his profile picture, just being the default one. Also, it's implied in his music video that Bonyue was woken up by Sunbringer.
Lately I've been studying modern colloquialisms. For example, calling someone mommy doesn't necessarily mean they are your biological mother. It may merely imply that you see certain admirable qualities in them. I learned this because one time, a youngster called out to me crying, "Daddy!" It startled me. I briefly feared I had produced offspring without my knowledge. To avoid further misunderstandings, I decided to learn how young people speak.
In a trust event, we learn that Zhao has to buy custom children's clothes because she is so short and there aren't many normal Thyran clothes that will fit her. I learned this while making this video, but when Promia becomes the new Eridu City Flasher, she has a mole on her left hip. The Angels of Delusion are next, with Suna's little friend named Bubblegum being a Tomogachi, and Arya upgraded it to be a holographic projection into the real world. As we know, Arya is an intelligent construct who uses her hologram tech to project a human form onto herself, with a true form being called AH0L0 type, and was originally used for combat. Nangong is strange because in her promotional material, it states that she is a Thyran. What type of Thyran, we don't know. The biggest theory is that she is the same as Remiel, being a winged Thyran, but with a giant scar on her back and the fake-looking wings. It seems something tragic happened, but we don't know what. Nangong's W engine, while it's strange-looking, is supposed to be a disco ball, and it plays one of their songs, Redreaming Angel. Finally, the Rose Califer people, starting with Valina. In her agent intel, and even a trust event, we can see that she can't handle alcohol very well, and is a lightweight. We also learn that she is terrible at taking care of plants. So, Norma's hat is actually a bamboo, and during combat, if you swap out with her hat on the field, it will cry and try to find her. Remiel is one of the old Void Hunters, and also she likes to play fighting games, as said by her in the 2.7 story. And in her hideout, she even has 3 arcade cabinets. Truly, her greed knows no bounds. And last, but certainly not least, is Sigrid, who, as we learned in the 3.1 story, is such a fan of Mr. Roar that she even owns a matching costume of them, which I can only imagine her putting it on and looking into the mirror and practicing roaring. A lot of things change in Rose Califer after 3.1. Like with Remiel's room, where, in the story, if you interact with the things there, the dialogue will be different. Like with the 3 arcade machines that I mentioned earlier, they are mentioned to be covered in dust. whereas now it is said that the dust is gone. Ramiel even left a letter for you in her room that you can read for some polychrome. There's also a new wanted poster of us. Well, actually, of Pyroas, and they don't seem to be too happy about it. Thanks so much for watching this. This project has been huge, and I don't think I'm going to do another one of these, and just focus on making gaming videos. And if you want, I would like for you to check out my other videos, since that's what I'm more interested in. I know they're mostly not ZZZ related, but I'd make me very happy if you stuck around. Anyways, thank you so much for watching, if you made it to the end. Goodbye!